How's it going, guys? Vaibhav here and welcome to a gaming test for the Xiaomi Poco X3 Pro. This is sort of the reincarnation of the Poco F1, which went crazy a few years ago. And if you want to learn more about the full overall performance of the smartphone, including camera, design, as well as, general things about the smartphone, check out the full review that I have listed down in the description. But this video focuses on gaming performance because I've heard a lot about this phone overheating and I thought I'd check it out for myself. Now, in terms of what this phone brings to the table, you get a 6.67-inch IPS LCD display, which is a full 120Hz panel. You also get the Qualcomm Snapdragon 860 processor, which is an octa-core processor, and this variant in particular has 6GB of RAM and 128GB of UFS 3.1 storage. So getting right into it, we're going to start off with synthetic benchmarks to see what you can expect. I've run a full AnTuTu Benchmark test scoring about 493,000 with repeated tests showing a variance of 3 to 5% up or down. Geekbench 5 shows a 431 single core score and a 1434 multi-core score. Last but not least, there's 3D Mark, especially with the wildlife stress test, which is something that I've done for all my gaming test videos, and the results are as follows. The average loop score is around 3100 and the stability percentage is a bit on the lower side at 83.2%. But if you've been following the channel for any span of time, you'll know that I'm a fan of real world performance and not benchmarks, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. Now, to measure this performance, there is a tool provided in the developer options of the smartphone which gives you access to things like temperature as well as frame rate. And these are the games that I'm going to be testing, very popular across the board, and between each testing phase I'm gonna give the smartphone about 30 to 45 minutes to cool down to its default temperatures before testing the next game, just to keep everything fair, and hopefully with the end result you should have a fair idea of how the Poco X3 Pro performs in varying different scenarios. First up, we've got PUBG Mobile. This one's a staple in the Battle Royale gaming front, and to fully test it, I've set it to smooth plus extreme settings. I've played one game throughout the testing period, which was about 30 minutes, and I'll be showing you the highlights talking over my experience. For about 95% of the time, the game's frame rate stayed within the 57 to 60 FPS mark, which felt very smooth, especially with the 120Hz refresh rate. In gunfights particularly, the phone was able to maintain a good experience. I did feel some very slight frame drops here and there, but it was nothing to take away from overall use. These were more prevalent when I was driving a vehicle in the game, but that aside, performance stayed absolutely solid. In terms of temperatures, there was a peak at about 53.5 degrees Celsius according to the monitoring software, and to be frank, it didn't feel that much in the hand. And just as a side note, I am going to be mentioning temperatures in Celsius, so just keep that in mind. As a verification, I also used a temperature monitor machine which showed a variance in surface temperature between 43 and 45 degrees Celsius. Now, this isn't very specific, nor is this going to give you absolute temperatures, but I just want to compare surface temperatures with the temperature that the benchmark tool is providing. Away from the typical FPS shooter, I decided to try my hand at Asphalt 9. Once again, the game was set to its highest settings available to serve as a showcase of what the smartphone is capable of. Here too, the game ran on average between 58 to 60 FPS, although that mark and feeling wasn't exactly consistent. When not much was going on, things felt smooth, but as things were happening on screen, for example, the car crashing into a building or it blowing up other cars, I did feel stutters, and the performance tool reflected this pretty clearly, notching down all the way to 52 FPS at certain junctures. Another point to consider here is the smartphone's temperature, going up to 57 and even 58 degrees, which is quite hot. While the increase in temperature didn't really show a direct decrease in performance, the drops and stutters in frames did get noticeable towards the end of my session, and the phone was feeling warmer at the end of it, ranging between 45 to 49 degrees according to my temperature machine. Okay, next up we've got Call of Duty Mobile. We've set once again the graphic quality and frame rate to very high and max respectively, and just like the games we've seen before, gameplay remained extremely smooth, ranging between 58 and 60 FPS, and throughout multiple scenarios you'd see the game stay that way. Touchscreen responsiveness felt great, and there wasn't a time where I found the phone to be very lacking. So I think for anyone who enjoys FPS titles, the Poco X3 Pro has all of its bases covered. As I progressed through my 30-minute mark, the temperature of the phone did rise up to 53 degrees, up from 46 degrees when I started off. And just like in the previous cases when checking with the temperature machine, it showed a range between 42 to 46 degrees, and in the hand, the phone did stay as cool as when playing PUBG Mobile, so that was great. To wrap up, it's only fair to end with Genshin Impact. This is probably the most resourceful game in the list, taking up to 8 GB of storage in your phone. It's already different to the other games tested before in the fact that the maximum FPS here is 30 FPS at the default settings of the game. Unlike the other games feeling smooth, this one felt quite choppy, especially in fighting scenes or when a lot of stuff was going on. The general range of the frames for this game came around to 21 to 30 FPS, so there was some significant dip in the way the game performed. I wouldn't blame the Poco X3 Pro here for this though, as I've seen flagships like the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra or even the iPhone 12 Pro Max from Apple struggle to perform with this game. The one thing that the game needs, of course, is some optimization and support for 60 FPS to make the game even more enjoyable, but I think that comes down to how the developers want the game to be perceived. Temperatures when playing the game hit around 55 to 56 degrees according to our tool, with the temperature machine showing rises from 45 to 48 degrees in the hand. So one thing from my testing of the Poco X3 Pro is that despite its incredibly budget price tag, it gives you an avenue to pretty much play any high-end game on the market. Now, yes, the phone does heat up when you play these games, but doesn't any smartphone heat up when you play the games? Check out my iPhone gaming test or my Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra gaming test. These smartphones also heat up quite considerably when playing a title, and compared to those, this smartphone is in a completely different league in terms of price, yet gives you a very similar, if not the same experience. So if you're in the market for gaming and you value good battery life and a decent display with IPS LCD and 120Hz, this is literally the phone to get. If you want to check out the full review, once again, it is linked down in the description. But thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys found it useful. If you did, a like and a subscription to the channel would be very much appreciated. Stay tuned for more videos on different tech products coming up. This was Vaibhav, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios!